Пресс-конференция двух участников группы Metallica, Ларса Ульриха и Роберта Трухильо, посвященная премьере фильма «Metallica. Сквозь Невозможное». И модератором этого мероприятия будет PR-директор кинокомпании «Вест» Софья Петрова.
Здравствуйте. Так, мы можем начинать. Пожалуйста, поднимаем руки и представляйте, не забываем представляться. И, пожалуйста, молодой человек в очках. Первый ряд.
В фильме есть эпизод, где когда вокруг вас начинают взрываться аппаратуры. Пожалуйста, ли это в реальности? И как вы обычно выходите из ситуации из этой ситуации?
We run fast. That kind of stuff happens quite often. During this production, we were prepping for all this. At one point we had a fire in the lighting truss. Another point we had a camera that became loose on a zip line. So the production for this was actually very dangerous. We're lucky to be here with you right now. Celebrate that danger.
And you also have to remember that in the movie, obviously the movie, all the gadgets in the movie pay homage to things that we've done in the past. So the particular state's destruction is a nod to the state setup from the 1996-1997 tour. So the stage destruction was the primary gadget on the lower reload tour back in the mid-90s.
Недавно вы только вернулись из тура. Везде пели, и тут вы приехали в Москву с презентацией фильма. Логичный вопрос вытекает, стоит ли вас ждать в следующем году с балетом?
It's actually 2 years. The ballet was not available next year, but 2 years now. Yeah. We're working on it. You know, we're trying to do as many different things as we can. So, Russian ballet, check. 2 years from now.
Опеть.
Huh?
Опеть. Sing songs.
Well, you know, that's just a part of what we do. It's not all of what we do. But we did have a great run out in, we played in some new countries that we haven't been to for a while, out in Malaysia and Indonesia and Singapore. I went to China for the first time, and now we're going to do this movie for about 3 months, and then we're going to go make a record again. And then it's going to be Russian ballet.
Thank you.
Кто-нибудь раскройте секрет, что было в той важной посылке, в той важной сумке в фильме?
Okay, the question was, what is in the bag? You tell us what's in the bag. Your own interpretation.
Can be yours, sir.
Yeah, we've had some great answers to that from our fans, and I think that's the best way to go about this.
I prefer to load it from you.
Well, you know, we had some people say, is your new album in the bag? You know, the new songs, is that what's in the bag?
I can, if you ask me the question, I can tell you I've never looked in the bag, so I don't know what's in there. The only person that I know who's looked in the bag is the actor DeHaan, and I've never asked him. He may very well take that to his grave, actually, but maybe one day I'll ask him, but I haven't, so I can't tell you. But like Rob says, we've heard everywhere we go, everybody's got a smart answer. Somebody the other day said that Cliff Burton's soul was in the bag, which I thought was particularly moving. But who knows? I don't know. But if I find out, I'll let you know.
Actually, the hero of the film was shocked when he saw in the back. The hero of the film was shocked when he saw in the back.
I know. Well, I don't know. It doesn't say in the script what's in the bag. But I think there may be certain movies, say Pulp Fiction, we never quite know what's in the suitcase. So it may be loosely inspired by some of these different things, who knows. He certainly has a pretty physical reaction when he opens the bag. And I think it's acting at its highest level. But maybe one day I'll get around to asking. If I do, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Of course.
Еще вопросы?
Небольшой вопрос. Вы выходите в прокат практически в одно время с музыкальным фильмом про One Direction. Вас это не смущает? Все-таки ведь маленьких нельзя. Это первый вопрос. И второй вопрос касаемо, отличается ли ваша роль, когда вы работаете на сцене или когда вы работаете на камеру в качестве музыкантов? Спасибо.
I don't think that we have too much competition with the One Direction movie. I think we have different audiences. And even though I know the filmmaker from the One Direction, Morgan Spurlock, who's actually a friend of mine, it's obviously different audiences, different kind of movie. I think the One Direction film is much more obviously a documentary or even like an infomercial. That's not what we were interested in doing with our film. We wanted to do something completely different. I haven't seen their film, but a lot of other artists, Justin Bieber and Katy Perry and so on, have done movies that are more sort of documentary, you know, a lot of being on tour and following the show and getting in and out of airplanes and cars and stuff. And I think that's fine. It just wasn't for us. We've done so much of that kind of documentary style stuff in the past, so that was not what we were interested in to do this time. As far as the second question, as you can see, a lot of people always photographing us. So, you know, when you're up on stage, you're pretty much photographed all the time. There's 10,000 iPhones taking pictures of you. Just listen to that. It's like a song. It's like music. So obviously the cameras for this movie were big 3D cameras, and it's quite a production. And obviously we're aware of the camera's presence, but I can't say that it's, you know, it just makes you kind of step up. It's, in English they have this word, it's like game time. Put your game face on, and you get up on stage. There's 20,000 people there sharing the experience with you, and it sort of lifts you, and the cameras, I think, just enhance the experience. But these days, you know, when we're working at the studio or when we're here or whatever, there's always cameras that are recording everything for websites and for DVD extras and all this stuff. So it's sort of, without sounding blasé about it, you sort of get used to it, you know?
Коллеги, еще вопросы?
главный герой вашего фильма — курьер технической службы. Вы вообще в курсе, как ваши ребята работают? Или вам все-таки с ними пришлось познакомиться, когда вы снимали этот фильм?
Well, for starters, our wonderfully crazy Hungarian director, Nimrod Antal, came up with the narrative and the story, which involves Trip. Trip would be the, I don't know if you call him a production assistant or a runner. He goes off on this errand that takes him into no man's land. And you know, yes, we have, let me just say this, our road crew and our runners, when we do have them, they're the best in the world. So Trip is a representation of that, you know, the energy that is Metallica. You know, there's this commitment that comes from our crew, and we love them, and none of this would be possible without them. So to me, Trip is an extension of that. Unfortunately, he set out on this journey and he, you know, encounters some craziness out there. I don't know. You want to elaborate on that?
What was the question?
You didn't hear it? Okay. Anyway.
What was the question?
He was asking if the reality or
Well, it's based, I mean, it's based on, the character of Trip is based on what we would call, I think, you know, my choice of words would be more runner or an errand boy. Most roadies actually travel with the band from city to city, from country to country. He's based more on like a local guy that runs errands on a daily basis, and there are lots of great people like that at Metallica concerts all over the world, and we've used them. Actually, Barbara, who was worked for me for 5 years, was a runner for Metallica. So you gotta be careful. You know, all of a sudden you'll end up having to deal with a drummer personally.
That's right. So Trip may end up working for Lars in the future.
God help him.
I ask you about a Newsted band which featuring Jason Newsted.
About what?
Newsted band featuring Jason Newsted. They are touring now with Dave in Spain and playing two Metallica songs, Metal Militia and Phantom Lord. What do you think about that? Did you heard Newsted's record?
I haven't heard this record, so I haven't heard. I heard one song when it came out a while ago, and it sounded interesting. I think it's great that they tour together and they play Metallica songs and spread the word of Metallica. Bring it on. It's good.
Вопрос следующий. Назовите, пожалуйста, ваши любимые музыкальные фильмы, фильмы о рок-группах, и какие из этих фильмов повлияли на вас в работе над вашим, что вы сделали нового в жанре музыкального фильма в данном случае. Please tell about your favorite music, pictures of the band.
Well, I think this is a great question for both of us. And films that have inspired me, you know, from the past, rock and roll movies, you know, films that had great music. There's a great film by Pink Floyd called Live in Pompeii, which I thought was really, really dynamic and had a lot of power. Obviously, you know, like The Last Waltz is a great film. There's another creative film called Kaiwanaski, which was basically a series of instrumentals put to images, intense imagery, and I thought that was powerful too.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, I think that The Wall, Pink Floyd's The Wall is obviously, when you're talking about you know, it's very difficult because the kind of movie that we had in mind, we had never really seen. So the easiest way to explain it was sort of like of music films that were hybrids with stories in them, a little bit like Tommy, a little bit like The Wall. You could even argue Princess Purple Rain. But obviously these are still movies that are quite different from what we envisioned. Going down to Hollywood a couple of years ago and trying to find a director and a writer to be our creative partners in this was a pretty difficult task. Most people down in Hollywood looked at me like I'd come from another planet when I was trying to explain to them the idea of the sort of a hybrid between a concert film and a dramatic film. And Nimrod, like what I was saying before, you know, was the first guy that was really truly excited about this and was ready to sort of jump with us without asking where we were going to land or how we were going to land or whether there were parachutes involved or whatever. So it's been an interesting ride, but obviously there are some great films out there that if this, you know, some people have already talked about that this movie that may stand beside those. It may be a little too early to tell. I won't say that, but you know, some of these movies just inspire you to raise the bar. I mean, I can't say that there's one particular element that has been sort of the guiding light for this film creatively. And to me, it's more when you see great films that you love and that move you, it inspires you to create. It's that vague, do you know what I mean? And for me personally, I'd say probably in the last couple of years, film has taken on probably a bigger sense of inspiration than music, because I find that there's much more interesting things happening in film and in cinema than there is in music, or at least in new music and new film. So it's you know, I draw a lot of inspiration even from Metallica's music, from cinema, just because I see a great film. Last week in Toronto, I saw 2 or 3 fantastic films that made me just want to step it up with Metallica. So you understand, it's not necessarily that, you know, great music inspires music and great film inspires film. They can also sort of inspire each other. It's just about, you know, if you see a great painting or whatever, great architecture, great poetry, just inspires you to want to create.
I mean, yeah, I have to say, same for me. When I, you know, when I'm a part of a great song or I've written a great song, I see imagery. You know, it's like a blank canvas, and I can't help it. I see in pictures, and I have that visual in my brain. So film is very exciting. There's nothing like seeing what you've helped create come to life on the big screen. It's really great.
Требовало ли участие ваших фильмов от вас какого-то дополнительного мастерства или ваших мнений обычных хватило вполне для этого? Дополнительного мнения, more skills.
I mean, obviously, we've never undertaken a project of this size before, so there's so many people involved. You know, skills. I mean, when we were the concert part of the film, for us was probably the most straightforward because we had to just go up and play, and obviously there were cameras around and all kinds of crazy stuff happening around us. But I would still say that the safest place for the members of Metallica is up on stage. It's the place we know the best, and it's the place we're most comfortable. You know, other than just, you know, I think increasingly the members of Metallica are much more human about being in the moment. We're not as, we don't force ourselves to be superhuman. We don't raise the bar to unexpected levels. We're not spring chickens anymore, but we're all in good health and good spirits, and I think we're probably hungrier mentally and ready to step it up than we ever have been before. But I think increasingly, you know, with this band, we just feel that we go out and do the best we can, and that's always good enough. If it's not good enough in that moment, it'll be good enough for the next moment when we step up to the best we can. And we're much more, I think, comfortable with that approach to music, to performing, to life than we were 20 years ago or even 10 years ago when Metallica was very much like a military machine that was always aiming for precision and this kind of almost unreachable level of excellence and no faults. And so I think Metallica is in a much better place than it's ever been before, and we just use the best with whatever shape our skills are in at that particular time.
If I can add to that, we all have families as well, you know, we've got children. And when I first joined the band, I didn't have children, you know. Now I've got a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. And during the Death Magnetic cycle, we were writing the music for Death Magnetic. We had 5 children born, you know. Some say that's probably why the album took so long to make, you know. But you know, you start to balance things out a certain way when you have a family. And I think part of that has actually helped Metallica, you know, helped us have fun. Because we can incorporate our family into certain aspects of Metallica, and it makes it that much more exciting at this point in our lives to write music, or to make a film, or to make an album with Louis, or to have our own festival, music festival. These are great challenges for us. We're inspired by that.
Вопрос Роберту. Часто ли вы носите носки цвета российского флага? Где купили?
Repeat that again.
Часто ли вы носите носки цвета российского флага?
Only for you guys. I'm so glad. Yes. They were a gift from my Russian friend. His name is Dimitrios in San Francisco. So I'm glad you picked up on it. Yay!
The pants are rolled up on purpose.
Yeah, I was hoping that somebody would catch that.
Здравствуйте. Вопрос такой. Тот факт, что фильм будет идти в кинотеатре, надеетесь ли вы, что он привлечет новую аудиторию, кроме фанов группы? Спасибо.
We'll see. When Some Kind of Monster came out 10 years ago, there was quite a lot of people in the movie community who really embraced this film and who found something in that movie that they liked. A lot of people, or some people in the music world, thought that the movie was a little too transparent and maybe a little too revealing. I don't necessarily look at, you know, at the people at the receiving end of what Metallica does, whatever that is or whatever project it is we're doing. I don't look at them as sort of, you know, they're music fans, they're film fans, they're Metallica fans, they're not Metallica fans. I think that these days it's such a varied and unpredictable audience that we have out there. If you put 50 Metallica fans in front of me, you get 50 completely different attitudes and outlooks on life and 50 different ways that Metallica plays a role in their life. So I think this movie, and the feedback we've gotten from people who've seen this movie, is that this movie is quite an experience, quite a ride. It certainly is a unique film, and I would say that it would be nice or cool if there were people outside of the Metallica hardcore fan base that appreciated the movie for what it is. I've heard feedback from lots of people who are not necessarily Metallica fans who've gotten off on the film, and who sort of just appreciate, like I said, the uniqueness and that it's a different kind of a film than anything they've seen before. So, you know, we'll have to see how it plays out, but so far the word is good.
Металлику постоянно обвиняют в том, что вы пытаетесь заработать деньги на всем, на чем только можно это сделать. Вот сейчас выходит этот фильм, и у фанатов и антифанатов появляется еще одна возможность наехать, грубо говоря. Как вы реагируете на это? Что вы можете ответить этим людям? И второй вопрос. Есть замечательный мультсериал про группу GameScope, самую успешную группу в мире. Видите ли вы какие-то параллели между фанатами группы GameScope, изображенными в мультфильме, и вашими фанатами? Спасибо.
Actually, Brendan Small is a great friend of mine, and there's no parallel, I don't think. We don't really spend time thinking about that sort of thing. As far as the money issue, if anything, I think with Metallica, we take risks and we challenge ourselves, and we put ourselves out there in a way where it's not about making money, it's about doing stuff for our fans so that we can, you know, again, make ourselves happy because we're so creative, we're passionate about creativity, but also, you know, to also embrace our fan base and take them on a journey with us. You know, that's sort of the priority. Making a film like this is extremely scary. It's not like, oh, we've got all this money and we're going to make this film because we want to make more money. The chances are is that we're not going to make more money off this thing. You know, and if anything, I think it's more driven towards the art of filmmaking or creativity. You know, that's really the center of it. I mean, if we can make our money back, great.
I don't know who Jeff Clark is.
He doesn't even know who Jeff Clark is. I do because I love cartoons, I love animation. Yeah.
Раскройте нам секрет, на каком этапе находится процесс создания вашего нового альбома и когда мы все-таки его увидим. Спасибо.
As long as the secret stays in this room. Well, we have to hear ourselves talk about this movie for the next 2 or 3 months, and then when we're done with that, we'll get back to thinking about the next record. 2014 will be probably mostly about the new record, but I think we're also. It's like, who are we kidding? I think we sort of figured out that there's always something that will come up. Somebody will come and say that they've offered us a gig on the moon or something, and then we're going to go and do that. Or some experience, you know, we're always up for anything, but, you know, we want to definitely get back to making a record, and I think we feel quite invigorated after spending a couple of years in the movie world. Now I think we're pretty psyched to make another Metallica record, so we'll work on it next year, and it'll probably come your way in 2015 would be my best guess.
У меня скорее вопрос ближе к Ларсу, да. За основу фильма вот сюжета не была ли взята твоя жизнь того периода, когда ты тусовался в Diamond Head? Вот как ты можешь это прокомментировать? 81-82 год.
I think that's a fine suggestion. Doing interviews about this movie for the better part of the last month, I've heard a lot of different suggestions about what the movie means. Obviously, since it's Metallica, we were sort of aiming for ambiguity and I guess in some way kind of, you know, that we encourage the movie-going audience to sort of get out of the film whatever they would like to get out of the film. I'm not going to sit and carve out in stone what this film is supposed to mean or what it's supposed to represent, but I do think that there's a parallel between 30 years of talking about, you know, Metallica, or being asked about Metallica messages and what do the lyrics represent and all this type of stuff. If there's one common thread through all of this for 3 decades is that we encourage people to sort of figure out for themselves. Great film, great painting, great literature, great poetry, great music. I'm not putting Metallica in that bracket, but I do feel that it's always more exciting, at least for me as a fan of great art, when I have the opportunity to kind of mold it to what I think it should be and to figure it out for myself and kind of paint my own landscapes. So what does this film mean? If it represents young Lars following Diamond around in England in 1980, then I'm not going to say it doesn't. I don't know if Nimrod Antal, who wrote the story of Trip, knows who Diamond it is, but maybe he knows more about this stuff than I've never asked him. When what appealed to me and what appealed to us about his screenplay and about his ideas was, it was originally titled Chaos, and there was this whole kind of underlying chaotic, mad feel to it that we thought would be a really good companion to the concert. That the balance between the concert and this crazy world that this runner/roadie inhabits would play really well as a counterpart to the concert experience. And to be honest with you, we sort of sat around and scratched our heads a little bit too. Obviously, reading this in a script form was very unusual because of the lack of dialogue. I don't know if you've ever seen a movie script, but there's 120 pages of dialogue in it, and this was a 15-page script with no dialogue. So it was quite peculiar. Again, I think the beauty of his great script and the way he executed the narrative part of this film is that it's so ambiguous. And I think it's the perfect counterpart to the crazy world that takes place up on stage.
Господа, последний вопрос.
So the first question is about who took Dane down to the film, whose idea it was to take Dane down to the film, and the second part is didn't you want to join the riots actually, who are facing the streets?
Did you want to join the riots?
Did I want to join the riots?
I mean in the film, of course, not only the concert, but.
3 years ago, two of my kids took me to a movie in California called Chronicle, and as I was walking out of that theater, I was basically IMDb'ing this incredible actor with these magnetic eyes. It turned out it was DeHaan, who I did recognize from a TV show called Treatment. Subsequently, he did some smaller films, Lawless and some other films, and when his name came up about 14 months ago as a possible lead actor in this film, I went ballistic. I mean, there was no way he was not going to do this movie because he was perfect for the role of Trip. So we spent all our time, effort, and resources on trying to get him, and I even spoke to the last director who had worked with him, a guy named Kirk, who directed him a movie called Place Beyond the Pines, about what we could do to get Dane into a movie. He was actually quite open to it, and was open to the also the uniqueness of the experience. And him and Nimrod met each other, and they got on like a house on fire. So it worked out well. But there was never anybody else that was talked about for that role. There was never anybody else that was considered. He was on a short list of one, and we would never take no. We would still be hunting him down on movie sets around the world right now if he wasn't in our movie.
The second part about the riots.
What was that again?
About the riots. I mean, didn't you want to join the riots on the screen?
That was Rob's question, right?
I think that's probably one of your favorite scenes in the movie, actually, the riot scene.
Riot scene's amazing, yeah. I mean, that takes place during Cyanide. He purposely, Metallica purposely stayed away from the filming of the narrative. I think that being around with Ruben for the Death Magnetic experience kind of taught me that sometimes it's better to take a little bit of distance from the day-to-day grind of a creative process. You get better perspective if you're not involved in every single minute detail. I could already tell when we were filming some of the band's parts in Vancouver that I was starting to get too involved in. And Nimrod would sit there and go, take 5 was fantastic when you were walking down the hallway, and I was pretty sure that take 4 was much better. And so I could tell that it would probably be better for my role in the post-production if I was not involved in the day-to-day of the shooting of the narrative. And so I did not partake in any riots. I was driving kids to school in San Francisco.
Спасибо большое. Был последний вопрос. Господа, можем